I've been thinking about war and violence a lot. This past week we celebrated Veterans Day. Veterans Day in a time when war and militarism and might and power are being lifted up. But veterans are being disrespected, made homeless, pushed off SNAP, seeing their communities disrupted and destroyed, and the very Constitution they take an oath to defend being trampled on. I think the contradictions of Veterans Day are playing out in big ways in the world right now. And I think they're playing out in ways that echo the readings we just had from the lectionary from Luke 21 and from that passage in Jeremiah 6. I've liked the passage from Luke 21 for a while now. I hear this line, "For many will come in my name, claiming, 'I am he, and the time is near,' but do not follow them." I can walk around the streets of New York City, especially places like Times Square, hear people proclaim that the time is near. Jesus is coming. The end of the world is approaching. And it's like the end days and plagues and pestilence abound. But while not many in the current administration will necessarily claim, "I am he," like it says in Luke 21, I believe we're rarely surprised these days when those in power, Trump, Mike Johnson, Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, other enablers of this administration, compare themselves to Jesus or refer to being tried and persecuted in ways that parallel Christ. One thing that has long been true about this passage from Luke is how Christian nationalists like to take hold of how persecuted Christians are. There's the line, "They will seize you and persecute you, put you in prison on account of my name." Just this week, Trump and Ted Cruz have been raising the killing of Christians in Nigeria in some pretty racist and Islamophobic ways. And starting early in this administration, House Speaker Mike Johnson has been raising concerns about tax. There are almost always been an outright hostility that is shown toward people of Christian faith. He said that particular quote, talking with Tony Perkins, a former Louisiana lawmaker, the president of the Family Research Council, when they're talking about freedom of religion and the actions of this second Trump administration. And I have to admit that such a statement from this country's third most powerful politician, an avowed Christian nationalist, it almost takes my breath away. Of all the people facing hostility, discrimination, violence now and throughout history, Christians like Mike Johnson rank very low on the list. I believe it's a move to paint a fuller picture of the persecution of Christians and perhaps to distract from who is actually being persecuted. Trump created an anti-Christian bias task force, one chaired by Pam Bondi. At the same time, and as we are all too familiar, he has slashed federal jobs and programs, attacked Medicaid, Head Start, Department of Education, affordable housing programs, accommodations for the disabled, environmental protections, public health and safety, Social Security, Medicare. He's defunded SNAP, threatened birthright citizenship, all the while scapegoating immigrants, the unhoused, and trans kids. It's particularly ironic that Trump and Johnson and the people with them in the top echelons of power are targeting those that the Bible is most concerned about: children, the poor, immigrants, the sick and disabled, women, the
Good. That's
vulnerable,
true.
and the earth itself. And that brings me back to Luke 21, brings me back to Jeremiah 6. Luke 21 says, "Nations will rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom. There will be great earthquakes, famines, and pestilences in various places, fearful events and great signs from heaven. You will be brought before kings and governors, and all on the account of my name."
I'm heating up the chicken. Do you want to?
Liz, you're muted.
Thanks. There are plagues all around, environmental crises, death by poverty in this rich land, genocide and war wreaking havoc, tyrants bombing ships off the coast of Colombia, dictators bombing Venezuela and talking about regime change, and so many people, innocent, vulnerable people, brought before powerful judges and rulers, kidnapped by law enforcement, faith leaders arrested, dragged away from because they take the part about welcoming the immigrant, healing the sick, feeding the hungry seriously. So when the likes of Trump and Johnson and any of the Christian nationalists in power try to liken themselves to the protagonists in our biblical stories, we should stop in our tracks and remember that if there are any parallels between our biblical texts and the mighty and powerful in our day, it's parallels between Caesar and Trump, the emperors and tyrants of thousands of years ago, and the rich and powerful of our day. So rather than condoning the actions of this administration, the Bible talks about pulling the powerful down from their thrones and lifting up the lowly. Have you seen the signs at some of the Chicago immigrant justice protests over the past few weeks with quotes from Mary's Magnificat? Oh my gosh, I just love it. And thinking about the news of the week, these parallels between Trump and Caesar couldn't be more clear. I think about someone like Emperor Nero, sometimes known as 666 or the devil. He was particularly cruel, immoral, and corrupt. And I've been thinking about some of the tactics of Nero of late. How he burned down buildings and he blamed it on the marginalized. How he treated young girls and boys as objects and abused them for his own pleasure. Did you see the statement that the president of Colombia put out this week? He said, "A clan of pedophiles wants to destroy our democracy. To keep Epstein's list from coming out, they send warships to kill fishermen and threaten our neighbor with invasion for their oil. They want to turn the region into another Libya full of slaves." Somehow, when I was reading this, it resonated almost like Luke 21. The things that people in power do to maintain that power. They stay up late at night in their beds, thinking about how to hurt people, as Micah reminds. They say, "Peace, peace," when there is no peace, as Jeremiah reminds. So then, rather than Mike Johnson and focus on the family and Peter Thiel and the crew from Turning Point USA, who are proof texting the Bible, including passages like Luke 21, I think the real message of this passage is more akin to that from Colombian President Petro. Poor people are not sinners. They're not parasites or pathological or to blame. Women and children are not there to be playthings for the rich and powerful. Rather, it is that poverty and injustice is a sin against God. And if we truly want to honor and worship God, we must commit our lives to fighting injustice, to fighting suffering, to stopping bigotry and racism. It must be said, the Bible does not proclaim God didn't make enough food for everyone to eat, nor my abundance will trickle down from the rich to the rest. Jesus does not say get a job to the homeless of society, nor you shall not be able to express yourself, your true self, to the LGBTQ youth of our communities. The Bible does not proclaim that a little charity is as good as y'all can do, nor that the powerful should be given impunity when the poor shall pay for the pleasures of the rich with their bodies. God the Creator does not say drill, baby, drill to God's great green earth, nor does this God say your body, my choice, to the women of the day. Instead, God reminds us that how we treat the poor, how we treat the immigrant neighbor, is how we honor and worship God. Jesus starts that public ministry of his, declaring, "I have been anointed by God to bring good news to the poor," not the bad news of defunding schools or housing eviction or foreclosure. This, my family, this is the Jubilee. And it's not a peace through strength, but a peace through justice and love and truth and solidarity. It's not a peace when there is no peace, nor treating the wounds of my people as if they're not serious, but a lifting from the bottom so that everyone can rise. The building of a society where everybody is in and nobody is out. It's not a pro-life position that takes away gender-affirming care from young people or kicks low-income families away off of STAP. It's a stance that everybody should thrive and not barely survive, like we say in the welfare rights movement. That's the conclusion of Luke 21. Stand firm. Stand firm, and you will win life. May it be so.